behind the scenes at SKOR North and 1500 ESPN have sports opinions, so they want you to hear them. It's the perfect digital sports soapbox to scratch that Minnesota sports itch. This is the SKOR North Taxi Squad.
Yes, indeed. Welcome into another exciting episode of the SKOR North Taxi Squad, everyone. My name is Jason Stormer, one of the cabbies on duty tonight. Joining with the usual cabbies on duty, we got AJ Fredrickson and Artis Woods here to talk another busy week of Minnesota sports. Our football team may or may not be 1-4. We'll get into that in a second. And also, baseball fans, your Minnesota Twins knee deep in a playoff series with the Houston Astros. Actually, we're all watching this game live as we speak, as we're recording this on a Wednesday night. Gentlemen, lots to get into again this week. Unfortunately, not the best news regarding the Minnesota Vikings, but I'm still trying to keep things positive. How you feeling today?
Feeling pretty good, man. This lovely Wednesday, watching this playoff game again. You know, I'm not going to say the sport is new to me, but I am a baseball casual watching this as we go here, and I am thoroughly entertained by what I'm seeing, hoping that the Twins can pull this out. But other than that, man, feeling good here at work. The Vikings are being the Vikings, I guess. I don't even know. And yeah, I mean, that's just life. How you doing, AJ?
I'm good. I mean, we got wild season starting tomorrow, aka if you're listening to this on Thursday later on today, playoff baseball is in full swing. And for the first time in a while, you can say the Twins are still playing on October 11th. So that's pretty sweet. Hopefully it transcends this night and they go a little longer as well. No, things are good. I will say not thrilled about the weather, only because of how quickly the transition from summer to like cold, like flat out cold is. Usually there's like a good 2-ish weeks where you can do a sweatshirt on top, shorts on the bottom. No, we did straight from t-shirt, shorts to long pants and a sweatshirt. So I'm not a huge fan of that, but you know, it is what it is. We'll push through, we'll move along, and we're all set. But let's let's get into the great sports talk.
Yes, let's get into it right away. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, your Minnesota Vikings unfortunately weren't able to get it done against the Kansas City Chiefs, even though I did pick them to win the game. I blame Taylor Swift for not showing up to US Bank Stadium, honestly, guys. I think that's the entire reason why the Vikings weren't able to get it done today or a couple days ago. But yeah, let's get into this game. Look, you're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's already a monumental task as is. But guys, there were some major glaring issues with the Minnesota Vikings in this game. I mean, obviously there have been glaring issues all season, but again, this just, for some reason, for me, this game kind of epitomized all the issues with the Vikings. You fumbled the ball right away again. I don't know what to say about that anymore. And it's not like Patrick Mahomes had an amazing day, but man, the throws that he was making, the plays that he was making, it's just crazy to see. I mean, I know that Jug got to go to the game in person, and he described it like watching Wayne Gretzky in his prime, just seeing one of the alphas of his sport. Yeah, guys, another disappointing loss for the Minnesota Vikings. They find themselves 1-4. They got the Chicago Bears next week. But what were your takeaways, just quick takeaways, after another devastating defeat and also maybe some injury issues that the Vikings got to deal with too?
Stop turning the ball over. I'm so sick of this. They didn't even give me a chance to like sit down on the couch and like relax first. I was still like getting like a beverage out of the fridge, and then Josh Oliver is usually a blocky tight end, and he fumbled the ball. Oh my god, the script continues. I can't handle it. It's really annoying. I don't know. Like at this point, I don't know what to do. I can't do anything, but what do they do? Right. I'm like, it's been 5 weeks now, and they're still just fumbling the ball and turning the ball over. They didn't have, to my knowledge, if my memory serves me correctly, they didn't have a red zone turnover, which is progress, I guess. But you know, they still lost the game. It's just, I don't know, it's frustrating. And I know there's probably some people sitting out there that are still hurt is not the word, but upset, frustrated by the officiating late. Yeah. But that's just what happens, you know. A guy takes his helmet off and the ref says put it back on. Should he have been flagged for field and then like the field positioning on the turnover? Yeah, probably. But you know that you can't rely on that to be the you have to be better than the Chiefs. And frankly, they had multiple chances to be better than the Chiefs. They were tied at half, And then you had Travis Kelce, who was playing on half an ankle, coming out. He scored a touchdown later on. So I know that they probably got him all souped up with, proper medical wrapping and horse tranquilizers and beaver stuff and blah, blah, blah. You should be able to take advantage of that. You did fluster Patrick Mahomes at times. There was a couple of very good plays. But at the same time, for the good plays, there was an equal, if not more, amount of just lackadaisical plays where receivers were left wide open, or they go to blitz, or they read the play wrong, and Travis Kelce is left wide open 5 yards, less than 5 yards from the goal line. So, maybe we just clean up some stuff.
And Tony Romo's like, look, he moved the defense with his eyes. Like, he was staring at Travis the entire time. What are you talking about?
There's no defender near him within 10 feet either. So it's just like, if you miss him, I mean, come on, even Zach Wilson could hit that. I don't know why I just took a shot at Zach Wilson. That was uncalled for. He's doing okay with the Jets. They got a better record than us.
I don't know who was the announcer. They're the analyst that was trying to go, whatever, doesn't matter. But it's frustrating. I'm not gonna say that the season is over quite yet, but it sure does feel like it, doesn't it? At this point, you're not going to be able to get back to 500 till essentially middle of the season, if not later now. Mm-hmm. So, and with that, you still have a couple pretty tough teams to do that, even if you wanted to get back to 500. So we're in a limbo. And this is my last thought before one of you guys else can please take over this conversation. But we're in a limbo because they're too good. And maybe not now. We don't know what this team looks like without Justin Jefferson in the lineup, but they on paper still too good to just be a bottom barrel team, but they're not bad enough, or they're not good enough to, from what we've seen, win some of these closer games. I want to say 0-4 in one score games now. So the tide is completely shift from last season. But yeah, I know Justin Jefferson, he'll be out for the next 4 weeks on IR, nursing that hamstring injury. I saw a report that Jordan Addison sat out practice today due to an injury that he was kind of laboring. Doesn't sound anything super serious, but just something to keep an eye on. I don't know. I like KJ Osborne as a player. Like, I think everybody knows he's not going to be like a superstar wide receiver, but the guy's got more heart than a lot of guys in the league, and he will, bleed purple if needed. I just don't know how well this team can do if a KJ Osborne wide receiver one situation is what is needed. TJ Hawkinson's going to have to step up and play like, the highest paid tight end. Anyways, your thoughts, Jason.
And well, looking at that injury report right now, as of this Wednesday's injury report, we had Jordan Addison gotten a limited practice, Lewis Cena full practice, and Marcus Davenport and Caleb Evans also got limited practices as well. I mean, that's going to have to be the thing no matter what. We're going to need a wide receiver to step up with Justin Jefferson being out for at least 4 weeks. And considering JJ, these hamstrings take a while anyway, as is. And considering he doesn't have a contract extension secured as well, I am guessing Justin Jefferson, rightfully so, is going to milk this. I mean, I just want him to be just to be healthy no matter what. And so I want the Minnesota Vikings to really just hone in on just encouraging Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne during this time, and even propping up. I know we shouldn't have to do this, but I feel like now we kind of have to prop up TJ Hawkinson a little bit, because I don't know about you. And yeah, some of these throws were a little wild or a little high for him against the Kansas City Chiefs, but it seemed like a lot of balls went off the fingertips or the hands for TJ Hawkinson. And, I'm sure he was maybe thinking, all right, I'm going up against Travis Kelce. I'm going to want to have a good game. And maybe that was some psychological hurdle he was dealing with, but it just seemed really noticeable in this game. I mean, the drops were prevalent for the Vikings throughout the entire game. Even Justin Jefferson had a really bad drop. And so it just seemed like it compiled a little bit. And when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, you just can't afford to do these kinds of things. I mean, you can't afford to turn the ball over in the very first play of the game either. That's not going to help you. But so, yeah, of course, Minnesota Vikings fans, with the news of Justin Jefferson, have obviously maybe changed their pivot about what they're expecting for this season. I mean, it was another competitive game. Again, like you said, AJ, we have completely just flipped the script on what last season was. 11-0 in one-score games, 0-4 so far this season. It's just the complete opposite of last year, and it's frustrating, but, and we'll see what Artis has to think about all this too. Maybe, just maybe, there is a silver lining here. Maybe with Justin Jefferson being out for an extended period of time and the fact that you now are 1-4, maybe this gives the front office and the coaching staff a little bit more clarity about, okay, what for sure direction are we going to take going into next season? Because even though Kirk didn't have a contract signed or anything, I think there was still maybe a shot of him, and maybe still is maybe a shot of him coming back next season. But I mean, if they go lose in Soldier Field, which is not unheard of, the Vikings have a very hard time playing in Soldier Field, and we'll get to our predictions in a little bit here. Then you're 1-5, and at that point, the fire sale has to begin. Phil has said this multiple times. If the Vikings get to that point, it would be franchise malpractice to not try to get something back for the expiring contracts. You know, the Danielle Hunters and the Kirk Cousins. But still, I mean, guys, I picked the Vikings to win this game. That was kind of like my Hail Mary, my Drew Pearson throw. You know what I mean? Because if we beat the Chiefs, the season's back on. Sure, you're 2-3, you're below 500, but you beat the reigning Super Bowl champs and you feel a lot of momentum. And so I was just trying to will that victory for my Minnesota Vikings. But now that we're on the other side of it, like AJ said, I'm not willing exactly to say that the season is over, but my goodness, only 5 or 6 teams in like the last 40 or 50 years have been able to make the playoffs after starting 1-4. The odds are not in your favor. So maybe, just maybe, there's some clarity here for the Minnesota Vikings as a result of a pretty nasty situation.
Season is over. It's over, bro. In my humble opinion, I think it's over. I think you do win a couple of these games, but Justin Jefferson is now out of the lineup, and it's gonna make things tough. If you're struggling to win games right now with Justin Jefferson in the lineup, you're really gonna struggle with him not in the lineup. I'm glad you brought up TJ Hockenson, Jason, because that was gonna be one of my first points. He really wanted that money this offseason. And he did not want to step on the field and practice during training camp and all this because of the ear infection and everything else that was going on. A lot of different issues there. And then as soon as he got paid, he was ready. And I'm seeing a lot of drop passes. Now, I gave him a pass in the game. Forget which game it was recently where, the ball was thrown. I think it was the Chargers game, if I'm not mistaken, where, the ball was thrown at him in the end zone. It was a tight window kind of pass. Ball bounced off this thing. Okay, that kind of happens. But it's happening a bit too much for a guy that's paid like he's the best tight end in the league, especially in comparison to a guy in Travis Kelce who, again, like you said, AJ, played on the bad foot and still went out there and made plays. And so that was hard to watch. That's hard to watch. Like, he's got to reel some of these in. Like, he's paid now to reel those passes in. He's paid to make Kirk Cousins look good. And he has not facilitated in making Kirk Cousins look good. Justin Jefferson, he's a guy who managed to not deal with the injury bug so far throughout his entire career. It sucks that he's going through this right now. I think it's crazy that he's going through it right now in a contract year or two. That makes the situation even worse, even more sticky. If I'm him personally, I'm not rushing back because what is the point? What is the point? Especially if you see, the Chicago Bears, even though they're the Bears, like you said, the Vikings have struggled to win games at Soldier Field. That's number one. Number two, the last 2 weeks, the Bears have looked decent. Offensively, at least. They've been in games. Justin Field has looked good. So there's not a gimme game there. And then after that, you got the 49ers coming up on the schedule. So who's to say they won't drop the next 2 games? Green Bay hasn't looked good recently, but who knows? This defense is not wowing. I mean, it's honestly, it's frustrating to watch the turnovers. First play of the game, AJ brought it up earlier. It's like you can't even sit down and make yourself a drink or get some popcorn or anything before a turnover happens. I'm done saying that this isn't who they are. I'm starting to believe this is really who they are this season. They were very fortunate to not have to deal with that as much last season, but now it looks like this is who they are. And I will say this, because I want to get it off my chest, and I'm gonna do it here. The Chiefs get a lot of calls, yo. They get a lot of calls.
No,
They
you're telling me the Chiefs?
Oh my gosh!
Keep your helmet on, guys. Keep your helmet.
Man, I mean, Mike, they get a lot of calls and a lot of no calls, and it is very hard to watch. I mean, the Chiefs, they're great. One can say they earned these superstar calls and no calls that they get. But I mean, we can take it back to the AFC Championship game. We could take it to the Super Bowl. We could take it to Week 1 this past year where they were holding Hutchinson literally the entire game. They probably only called holding once. You could take it to the Jets game. You could take it to the end of this game. It was a pass interference. The guy did take off his helmet. Frustrating, bro. Yeah. It is frustrating to watch. So if I'm the Vikings, honestly, at this point, you don't want to pack it in. But at the same time, if the goal is to win a Super Bowl, I'm packing it in because it's not happening at this point. It's not happening. It's just not happening. You can still find a way to win the division, but even that's going to be difficult at this point. Even if you slide into the playoffs, who knows who you're going to see in the first round? Who knows if you'll have home field advantage? Like I don't like how it's looking. And I really think, and I brought this up last week, and I'm going to repeat it again. It is time to trade Kirk Cousins. It's time, bro. If there was ever a time within these next 2 weeks while the Jets are still remotely competitive and would be interested, because if they drop in the next couple games, they probably won't be interested anymore because there's no point. But if they stay competitive within these next 2 weeks, it's time to pull the plug, make a trade, think about the future. Obviously, talk to JJ first, but I think JJ is a smart enough ball player to know at this point it's not going to happen with the presently constructed team. We got to look towards the future.
I would say that now, given the situation now, like a couple weeks ago, maybe not, but given the situation now, he's out for a month minimum.
Right.
He doesn't have a contract extension as of this moment either. What's rushing him to get back on the field? Yep. You know, He's not a guy that you want to play. Like, for a guy that needs to be pretty much 100% with his legs, that's his separation. That's besides the hands, it's about as good as it can get. His agent is probably going to be in his ear saying, "Hey man, we'll take another week." You know,
if he doesn't, I will. If his agent doesn't get in his ear, I will do that. JJ, take your time. Seriously.
Yeah, I would.
He strikes me as a guy that's like, he's got that competitive nature about him. So the second he gets the green light, he's going to want to be back on the field trying to put up numbers because that's just who he is. He's a competitor. But the Vikings probably are going to look at this in the long run. You know you're going to extend him. It would be shocking to me if there's even a report that comes out that's like, well, you know, maybe they're thinking about not. No, you have to. Kirk Cousins, I'll help him pack if it means that you're going to,
we'll call the movers.
Like, that's just what it is. I think the conversation would be a little more open to moving out from Kirk, because then, you know, you're already off to a bad start. Now you're missing another whole month. That's another 4 games at least. You know, it's just, I don't want to say you have to just kind of throw the year away for him, but in the mindset of things, like the future, you have to look at the future of it. And I think you could make that pitch a little easier now than maybe a week or two ago.
My fear at this point, because this is kind of similar with what happened in 2020 with the Minnesota Vikings. They started 1-5 going into their bye week. After that, I mean, it got a little impressive. They rattled off 5 out of 6 wins, but ultimately they ended up missing the playoffs with, I believe, a 7-9 record. Different team. I understand that. Different head coach. Obviously, you had Mike Zimmer back then, and he's a prideful guy. He doesn't want to lose in any situation, so he's always going to push his football team. But ultimately, it really didn't end up being much of a season for the Vikings, and it didn't really set them up that well for the future. We have a very proud ownership group with the Wilfs here in Minnesota, and they've done so much good for this Vikings team. Built a great facility, built a great stadium, all that good stuff. But they live by the philosophy of the team they rooted for growing up as kids, the New York Football Giants, a team that also, maybe not so much more recently, but also had a decent job for many, many years, just being a consistent team, never bottoming out. And that was the goal for the Wilfs with the Vikings. I'm guessing it would take a pretty significant conversation on behalf of Kwesi Dofo-Mensah, Kevin O'Connell, to go to the Wilfs and say, hey, things aren't really looking good on the season. Here's the circumstances in which we're dealing with. Do we maybe have your blessing to maybe adjust about how we're going to approach the rest of this season? You know what I mean? And I mean, like, okay, maybe we just don't rush JJ back, maybe some other guys back, get some more limited practices in with some guys. I'm not really sure, but I don't know really if that's a conversation that the Wilfs are willing to hear. I think they always want to compete, but I mean, if the Vikings, and look, I mean, even though they're 1-4, they still got a pretty prolific offense. Obviously, that takes a hit with Justin Jefferson. And so I think all of us would agree that we can still see the Vikings rattling off some wins this season, because they're not on the same level as the Bears. I'm sorry, they're not on the same level as the Panthers or the Broncos. I think the Vikings, even though they all have similar records, are just a step above those teams. But like, I just don't know if really this team has it in itself, just based off the structure of the organization, to actually, and I know that we don't want to use the word tank around here at SKOR North. We made a big priority of not really mentioning that. It's just, man, it's just the writing's on the wall so much, guys, more so than probably any other season with Kirk Cousins here as the quarterback. And I mean, yeah, you're not going to tell 53 guys on any given Sunday to not go out and compete, and the Vikings probably will win a couple games as a result. But I just don't want them to reach for whatever minimal playoff success they thought they were going to have by making a run in 2020 that ultimately didn't end up being anything. I think there just needs to be more self-awareness in the situation that maybe previous Vikings regimes haven't had before. And I think that really, I mean, they're probably internally saying, all right, let's just get through the Bears. Let's get through the Bears or whatever. But, you know, if you have the foresight, then hopefully no matter what happens with the Bears, you have strong decision making and a strong decision about what you're going to do. We've seen so many years, guys, the Vikings just finished with these 500 records, not getting in prime draft positioning somewhere between like 15 and 25. And it's left a lot of fans a little bit frustrated that it's just like, well, you know, if you ultimately, like Artis said, if the goal is a Super Bowl, I'm sorry, your team has to be bad for a little bit. It just does. Unless God forbid you draft Patrick Mahomes and you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you have a perfect transition from Alex Smith to him. But that's very unlikely for the Minnesota Vikings. And so I just hope that calmer heads and just smarter heads will ultimately prevail, because if this ends up being a 2020 situation again, it's not gonna work well for the Vikings.
Yeah, I just don't think they have at this point much of a choice, in all honesty. And I think that ultimately, even if they go and try to win some of these games, they're still going to drop a handful of games. Like, you can say, and we can say, we all can agree that, okay, they're better than the Vikings, or they're better than the Bears. They're better than the Panthers. They're better than these like bottom feeder teams. But the Vikings are liable to lose to these teams. Like like it's kind of what they have shown us. Like they can easily lose to the Bears. They can easily lose to Green Bay. They can easily lose to the Falcons with the way that they play, turning the ball over, and without having Justin Jefferson, not having the best, red zone efficiency, settling for field goals, defense not being able to get, stops. Like they're not as bad as they was last season, the defense that is, but it's still not great. And so I think even if you go out there and try to save the season, it's going to be tough. It's at this point, it's going to be tough. And the Lions are running away with the division. Like they're not just going to lay down and drop 4 straight games to anything. Twins just lost. They're not going to just lay down and just, you know what I mean? Like lose a bunch of games in a row and allow the Vikings to come in and snatch up the division. And so at the end of the day, I don't think you come off of a 13-win season and say this season starting, 1-4, I'm going to try to compete to just barely get in the playoffs and barely do exactly what we did last year. There has to be a mindset of progression. There has to be a mindset of we want to move forward, not stay stagnant or move backwards. I understand still being competitive, still wanting to put butts in seats, but what will put more butts in seats, what will ultimately get the Vikings more money, ownership more money, more notoriety, that type of thing, is actually competing and making playoff runs. And at this point, the only way to do that is to move forward. It's the only way to do it. And it's not by trying to go out here or I'd say it's not by going out here and winning a bunch of games and then losing in the first round and not having a high draft pick. So we're on the same page. I just think that It might take a lot, but I'm calling the Jets now. I'm calling them now. Hey guys, what do we think about this? What are you guys willing to offer? This is what we're thinking. Let's make this happen.
Quick segment, on the fly segment, brand new segment to the show. Hashtag bad radio. Moment of silence for the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, I just took my hat off.
A looking strikeout from Max Kepler in the bottom of the ninth ends the season.
You can't take that pitch. That's such a close pitch. You can't take, and don't throw your hands up, Kepler. Either. Like, calm down. Are you serious? He was like, "Oh no, it was a bad call." No, too close to take.
All right,
season's over for the Minnesota.
All right, so to get this one really quick, hashtag bad radio. Moment of silence. All right, well, that was fun. That was bad radio, brought to you by nobody because we're not sponsored.
Bad YouTube as well for a viewing audience.
No, they can still see it. All right, you guys want to get to predictions for this weekend, this Sunday?
Absolutely. Oh, what?
And then I think after predictions, Jason, I do want to hear your eulogy, your in memoriam for the Twins before we sign off. So we'll do predictions, and then I want to hear your on the fly in memoriam. So
a lot of pressure, very emotional time for us right now, but I will power through. And
let's have you start with your predictions then, and then while Artis and I talk, you can kind of brainstorm what you want to talk about. But walk us through. What's your prediction for this Sunday?
Oh boy, man, it's hard to be optimistic after just watching the Twins get knocked out of the playoffs, and obviously the Vikings are dealing with a whole lot of issues. The injuries are starting to pile up. Justin Jefferson ain't going to be with us for a long time. Chicago is just a hard place to play for these Minnesota Vikings. There's just something about Soldier Field that just gets in their heads or something like that. This is a noon kickoff, right? Noon kickoff.
Yes.
Okay, so not maybe dealing with a primetime game there or anything. The Bears. Look, they're dealing with some injury issues on offense as well. Obviously, Justin Fields is awesome, but the running game right now is a little hobbled up. Khalil Herbert's going to be doubtful for this game. Rashawn Johnson is questionable, and Cole Kmet also is questionable at this point. So in terms of some of their main playmakers, they might be hobbled up a little bit too. So the Vikings defense could take advantage of that. And you know what? I actually was pretty encouraged by how the Vikings played defensively against the Chiefs. It could have gone a lot worse, and they didn't blitz nearly as much as I thought they would. And it was a decent game. Danielle Hunter was good. Marcus Davenport was good. Man, I am really torn because I just told you guys that I want the Vikings to have some self-awareness that the season might not be there for them, and don't do what you did in 2020. But I'm guessing this is going to be, this is probably a motivated squad. They're going to want to go into Chicago and take care of business. Man, this is going to come down for the wire for me. I am so split 50-50 on this game. It's going to be like a last-second field goal. The Vikings burned me last week. Dare I pick them again this week? They're favored by 2.5. I'm seriously, I'm trying to calculate this in my head on the fly. I'm distracted by the Twins too. It's very emotional. Still writing my eulogy. You got that to think about as well. Yeah, screw it. The Vikings win. Why not? Let's go with a score of... I don't think it's going to be terribly high scoring. I don't know. I think that's going to be closer to like what the score was with the Panthers game. So I'm going to say that the Vikings win 23-19. No, 19's a weird number. 23-17. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Chicago is playing good football right now, especially on offense. Last week, we saw them literally just stomp out the Commanders, who I still have just a little bit of respect for. Justin Fields last 2 weeks been balling. DJ Moore last 2 weeks been balling. They lost one of those games, but again, won last week. And I'm leaning that way. In all honesty, I have to see the Vikings without JJ.
Yeah,
I got to see it. You know what I mean? I got to see it for a full game to see how this offense is going to look without him out there. Defensively, again, it's better than it was last year, but it's not a defense that I think is going to necessarily stop Chicago the way they've looked the last 2 weeks. Now, if they looked, if they're going into this game looking how they looked the first couple weeks of the season, I think the Vikings have a good chance of running away with this potentially if they can do that. However, with them kind of being hot, I just kind of lean that way for the Chicago Bears to find a way to get the job done, especially seeing as though the Vikings don't have Justin Jefferson. Addison, I didn't bring him up. I do like what I saw to him this past week. He did ball out. Didn't have 100 yards, but had a touchdown. I think somewhere around 63, 64 yards. I look to see more of him this week. Hawkinson, I look to see him catch passes this week. You know, even the hard ones to catch, because that's what he's supposed to do. But ultimately, I kind of see the Bears finding a way to get up early by, I'd say, 10 points and seal the deal. So I'd pick the Bears to win this game because I don't see a high-scoring game either.
Never has see, you know.
I mean, I could see like 23-20.
Okay,
Bears.
Gnarly.
Right.
What about you, Age?
They're going to Soldier Field, and they never play well there. That being said, they should be the better team still, even without Justin Jefferson. I mean, but on the other side of things, Justin Fields is a mobile quarterback, and we know what this defense struggles against. So this is going to be another one of those, like, it's not going to be an enjoyable watch. That being said, when is it ever? You know, you're gonna sit down and hate life for about 3 hours.
Jesus, sound like the Cubs just got eliminated from the postseason.
I'm not gonna really shock the world here because Artis just kind of picked them, but I'm gonna go Bears with a win, 27-21, and I'm gonna parlay it slightly. This does not affect my. This is just a gentleman's parlay. But the Vikings will have a chance to win the game with a game-winning drive and will turn the ball over.
Oh, why you gotta do that, man? Come on,
27-21 Bears with some sort of turnover on the last drive of the game.
Strip sack, something like that.
Yeah, sack, interception, fumble. You know, you name it, they got it.
Man, again, if you lose to the Bears, though, let the fire sale begin. Sell all of your assets, and if you can convince Kirk to waive that no trade clause to go to the Jets or whoever, please. I don't know what that's going to take. I don't know if Kirk would want to do that either. I don't know if he'd want to do that.
Really quick, who do the Panthers play this weekend? Miami. No. Oh, so they're not. There's no shot they win. Because I was saying, can you imagine Bears and Panthers win, and then all of a sudden the Vikings are like, maybe Caleb Williams is in the cards, possibly. Blah blah blah. But they're playing the Dolphins, so there's zero chance that the Panthers win this week. So.
No. And honestly, don't the Bears have like the first 2 picks right now because of the trade with the Panthers?
Yeah, that's why I brought them up.
Oh man, what are they gonna do if Justin Fields actually does what he did last season and has a really strong second half? They're going to have that's going to be a very interesting conversation that Ryan Poles and the McCaskies are going to have. Because like, you can't deny that Caleb Williams is awesome, but like, how awesome is Justin Fields yet? We don't know.
They're going to draft Caleb Williams.
They're going to give him a passport to Canada and say, go play for the Manitoba Moosemen, buddy. You're part of the CFL now.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Well, if they could get Marvin Harrison Jr. too. Gee, I mean,
that's exactly what I think they're gonna do.
Good Lord.
With the first 2 picks, that's exactly what I think they're gonna do.
And it's the Bears. They'll find a way to ruin them. A lot of
football left.
Right, a lot of football left. All right, so I'm the only one who still had faith with the Vikings this week. Don't know why. 23-17 my score. AJ had 27-21 Bears, and then Artis had 23-20 Chicago as well. We'll see if those predictions hold up. Let you know next week on Taxi Squad.
All right, cue the taps, cue the solemn, sad music.
Have back on at least, just to represent the ball club a little bit. It is over for your 2023 Minnesota Twins. They fall in Game 4 to the Houston Astros. Final score of 3-2. Ryan Presley, former Twin, got the save, striking out Max Kepler to end the game. It's over. But I think I will look back on this Minnesota Twins team pretty favorably in the long run. Obviously, this division stank. It was yours to pretty much lose. Cleveland was bad. Detroit was bad. We don't have to talk about Chicago or Kansas City. It was the easiest path I've ever had as a Twins fan to an AL Central title. That was delightful. Was able to go to the game where they clinched, and that was a whole lot of fun. It was a good experience. But admittedly, going into the postseason, I didn't have a lot of expectations because the record wasn't so great. Offense was doing decent. A lot of young guys, Edward Julian, Matt Wallner, obviously Royce Lewis, and the pitching was fantastic too as well. This is one of the better pitching staffs the Twins have had going into the playoffs, and that was encouraging, but still, we all know what the narrative was before that Blue Jays series. 18-game losing streak in the playoffs and more than 20 years since you had won a playoff series. In my humble opinion, those were two massive dominoes that this franchise, just from a reputation, just from a public image standpoint, needed to destroy as soon as possible. What were they able to do against Toronto? Get that first win, got off the schneid. Fantastic. Got Jose Barrios pulled early in game 2. I don't know what Schneider, the manager for Toronto, was doing it. That was very a la 2019 Rocco Baldelli. I don't know what he was thinking. And then you get the Houston Astros. You lose game 1. Bailey Ober gives up that home run on the first pitch, and you already knew, okay, we're dealing with a different animal here. But that, I got to admit, guys, that game 2 ALDS win, even more so than the Blue Jays games in the wild card series, that was the one where I felt my heart racing the most. That was the one I was most excited for. I got to be at the station. I got to be at the station running the board for that game. We got to carry the Twins games on 1500 ESPN. First time like I've gotten to run a game for either like the Twins, Timberwolves, Wild, or Vikings. So I thought that was really cool. So I was emotional because of that. But also I just, I didn't grow up with the wild card series. Obviously, AJ, we didn't grow up with the wild card series. So I don't think you and I have like the same level of maybe emotional attachment to it yet. I mean, it needs more seasons to kind of to develop, but otherwise it just kind of seems like, it just seems it's a glorified wild card. And so even though I was pumped and excited that we won those 2 games against the Blue Jays, it really was that game 2 against the Astros that really felt like, and I might get choked up talking about this, I don't even care, because the Twins are my favorite club. It's a team I have invested most of my life, season ticket holder, watching games, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, Twins shirt, Twins hat. And it was just so cool to finally have a singular moment after almost 20 years as a fan. And I know this is such a Minnesota, like, yeah, we just won a playoff game, higher standards, go to a World Series, have those standards. But again, this was just something that was hanging over this franchise for so long. And to just have it be done all like within a couple days, it was kind of a roller coaster of emotions for a lot of Twins fans, just to experience things that so many of us really have never experienced. I started being a Twins fan like 2005, 2006. So I really have no semblance whatsoever of what even winning one postseason game was like before coming into the season. It happened. I'm ultimately, of course, disappointed that we weren't able to beat the Houston Astros, but in maybe a classic defeatist Minnesota sports fan sense, I'm just glad that we were able to end the streaks. And this is an encouraging club, man. We got some young guys now. They looked a little feeble at the plate in this series. Matt Wallner needs a little bit of work. He took some pretty feeble swings. Alex Kirilloff as well. But you know what? Younger players need to go through this kind of stuff and develop. And, they need to have this kind of experience in order for them to grow and ultimately have even more potential playoff success later down the road. So it's disappointing. But again, there were just some franchise altering obstacles that this team had just been facing. They got rid of them. And I think that is ultimately what this season will be remembered for. And hopefully now we can take this young core, parlay this pretty decent pitching staff. I'm not sure what the future holds for Sonny Gray. Hopefully he can come back. We'll see. He's an impending free agent. Be nice if he could come back, even if he got shelled in game 2. I would like him back. There is encouragement now for the Minnesota Twins after, we loved what the Bomba Squad did, but then it kind of dipped. And hopefully we'll be able to build some momentum going into the AL Central next year. It doesn't look like Cleveland's going to be much of anything. The White Sox just are an absolute mess. It's an absolute delight to watch as a Twins fan. And the Tigers got some money tied up in places that might handcuff them, even though they got some young studs like Torkelson and stuff like that. So that essentially is my eulogy for the Minnesota Twins. It was fun while it lasted. We got off the schneid in a couple ways, and that's good. Disappointing you lost. But again, there were just some things that you needed to do for your fans. You just needed to have these things done for your fans this season. And considering there was no pressure on this team going into the playoffs because they weren't, one of the upper echelon record teams like Tampa Bay or Baltimore, I felt like all that pressure was off. They went into this postseason just a little bit more cool, calm, collected than other teams. And they They finally rewarded us with something. At least me. They finally rewarded me with something after all these years. So I was actually way more optimistic than I thought it was. I thought it was going to be more upset. I'm still upset that Kepler took that last pitch. That was absolutely ridiculous. Anyway,
let me ask you this.
Yes.
Do you think that you're now set for another 18 years?
No. Oh God, no. Oh God, no. No.
Whoa.
Oh, no. Now that we have this playoff win, now I've become greedy. I want more because it shouldn't take this long to win one freaking baseball game. And so, yes, it's fun that it's over, but at the same time, it's just like this streak shouldn't have been a thing to begin with. And now I just now I want bigger and better things, even if I knew that wasn't necessarily possible with this club in 2023. Let's see what 2024's got in store.
Artis, your final thoughts?
Listen, again, as a casual, I enjoyed what I saw out of the Twins. Again, they got that monkey off their back. It's crazy to hear a statistic like it's been anything over 10 years is absurd. Anything over I won't say 5, but anything over 10 is crazy. So to get that monkey off their back to win not only a playoff game but a playoff series, I believe was impressive given their history. Again, there was a lot of pressure to, again, get that monkey off their back. They did. Sounds like they have an extremely promising future. And so it's always going to be tough losing any playoff series, any playoff game. It's always going to be tough. But if there's a bright future there, if there's a promising future there, that's something for Twins fans to look forward to. So as a casual to the sport, I'm somebody who definitely will be watching a lot more next season to see what they do, and hopefully they can repeat this and go further. But again, Twins fans, just like Vikings fans, just like Timberwolves fans, should expect more, especially now. You've shown us that you can do this. Now let's go further. Let's advance to the next round. Let's get to a World Series. Not saying it all has to happen in 1 year, but let's see constant progression. Let's not go another 10, 15, 18, 20 years without another playoff win or playoff series win.
I don't even think that's possible. Honestly, it was like 1 in 2 billion that the Twins actually lost those 18 straight games in a row. Nuts. What are your final thoughts, AJ?
I'm excited for the hockey season to start tomorrow. I'll be honest with you. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm so excited. Maybe, I don't know. I'm looking, but also maybe. That's my it's a definitive maybe. I would like to be there. I've attended the past couple of home openers. It's kind of become a self ritual tradition thing, but at the same time, if I can't, I can't. Either way, I'm excited. I don't necessarily have the highest hopes for the team this year, but I'm excited that hockey's back. I've been watching essentially nonstop hockey since last night. I got to see Sidney Crosby against Bedard to kick off the season. I had to watch that god awful Vegas Knights banner raising ceremony. Hey, Vegas, FYI, if you win another one, you might want to make sure the cup is straight on your banner. The cup,
actually, though,
it's crooked. It's crooked ever so slightly. The spacing is off, and you can tell, and it's going to bother me. And I'm not even a fan of them. So,
I wonder if they did that rough.
It's I don't know. I'm sure after everybody pointed it out as well that they're probably going to change it and swap it out and be like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, if you see a picture of it, it's ever so slightly off center. But yeah, Kirill should be good. I'm excited to watch Kirill on a somewhat nightly basis now, so should be fun.
And at his point, what he really wanted to say was, "Go Twins!"
Yeah, thank you for translating. Thank you for translating.
Go. They will make it further. But let's move on to hockey. Is what AJ was really trying to.
Honestly, I'm a little excited for basketball as well.
Yeah,
these are fun.
Seeing Ant and the rest of the crew dominate down in Abu Dhabi. It's something about those Middle East, whether it's Crown Jewel for WWE or Abu Dhabi games for NBA, just something about it makes everything look like rose-colored glasses.
Yeah,
so they're going to come back. They're going to dominate. I wouldn't be surprised if they go 20-0 to start the season.
Oh, easily. Yeah, forget about moving the franchise to Seattle. Put it in Abu Dhabi.
Please don't move it to Seattle. Please don't.
No, give them no.
That would be
tough. Jason, take us home.
Okay, I'm actually looking at the cup banner right now. You're right. It is slightly ajar. It is slightly off.
How do you?
I'm mad that you pointed this out because now I'm going to be annoyed by it now.
It's crooked.
It is crooked, just like your organization.
I'm over here dying for a playoff round win, and these guys win it their 6th year, and then they're like, we just don't care, so we're gonna make the cup a little.
I don't know. A lot of people are drunk.
That's so
crazy. We can't even get out of the first round, and these guys don't even take their banner seriously. So, just insane stuff. All right.
We wish we had a banner. Anyway, all right, that'll do it for another lovely episode of the SKOR North Taxi Squad. Another just busy week with Minnesota sports. Twins are wrapping up, so that's unfortunate. Won't be talking about too much of them anymore. But obviously, Vikings football all season long, 1-4, 4-1. It don't matter. Taxi Squad is here for you no matter what. And like we mentioned, hockey season starts literally like within 24 hours for the Minnesota Wild. We got the Timberwolves as well. Gentlemen, thank you again for joining me tonight. It's always a pleasure. We got Artis Woods and AJ Fredrickson. The SKOR North Taxi Squad, I forgot to mention this in the open. You can find us on SKORNorth.com, SKOR North mobile app, Spotify, Apple, and of course, yes, I'm a visual aid kind of person, AJ. Yes, I like to.
I'm just following along with you. There's so many options. I don't know where to listen.
I'm glad I'm teaching you to finally count. Anyway, Artis Woods, AJ Fredrickson. You can also check us out on the SKOR North YouTube channel if you don't mind as well. Jason Stormer here, signing off. We'll catch you on the next time with SKOR North Taxi Squad. Take care. Bye bye. 1, 2, 3.